Hello, I'm Terri Lee-Shield. Welcome to this. This is the third video of this series, How I Healed My Fibromyalgia Flare-Up Without Doctors. So if you haven't watched the first two, please go and watch the first two videos. They'll be linked on this playlist as a series. You can watch them in any order that you want if you like, but they are designed to be watched one after the other. You can watch them here on YouTube for free. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click the notification bell so you get notified when they're released. However, if you go over to loveschool.uk/flare-up, you can watch this as a course, and there's loads of free bonuses and things in there. We'd love to have you part of the Love School community. There's all sorts of advantages to watching it as part of a course. We have discussions, you can ask questions and things like that. And I just love building up the community there of people on a recovery and natural healing journey. So anyway, without further ado, this is video 3. So the next stage, video 1 was identifying the problem, looking at what was going on. Step 2 was doing some research and doing some initial experiments to find out what was helping. Once I had initially calmed down the flare-up and really wanted to commit to this process to make sure it wasn't coming up all the time, I knew I was kind of in for a longer stretch. Very often when we're healing, there's kind of like peaks and dips in the healing process. And initially when we make a change, our body will respond, especially if it's a positive response, quite quickly. So that's what happened for me. I got very quick feedback that this was a direction that was helpful. And then it kind of plateaus a little bit, and you've got to kind of go through the process to get the benefits, the longer term benefits. And this is where, when you commit into the process, you're starting to bring this into your habits, change your lifestyle, all that sort of thing. So that's what I did. So this video is about starting to commit to the process, and starting to expand into a new way of being. And there's a few things I'm going to cover in it. So when it came to my diet, one of the things I found really helpful when I was aware of this blood sugar thing was the idea of intermittent fasting. If you don't know what that is, it's where you only eat for certain periods of the day and you give yourself, like, your body a chance to digest that food, process it. It's got all sorts of benefits for different reasons, depending how you look at it. My interest, like I say, for this flare-up was the sugars. So turns out it can take quite a long time for our bodies to process sugar. So if we eat, say, for 12 hours a day and don't eat for another 12 hours a day, then your body actually resets. So it's processed all the sugars from the day before, and we're not just in a continual sugar burning cycle. It kind of gives your body a chance to settle. Now, if you increase that, your body does all sorts of other things. So if you fast for longer, your body starts burning fat. If you fast for even longer, your body starts killing off cells that aren't helpful for you. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a nutrition expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not medically qualified. This is just how I interpret this information that I've gotten, right? And the way that I found it helpful. If you fast for longer, it basically old cells start to be rejuvenated and stuff. So it's got lots of benefits for your health and well-being, apparently. There's all sorts of reasons why that might be, to do with the change of our diet and lifestyles, how we kind of got used to, like, evolve to live and different things like that. Either way, as I was committing to the change, I was reminded about this intermittent fasting thing. And again, I had experimented with in the past, and to be honest, I didn't really like it. I was doing it in a different way then. But what I actually noticed is now I naturally don't eat a lot throughout the day. Some days I have those hungry days and I'll eat all day. But mostly I get hungry a bit later on, I have a bigger meal, and then that's fine. I'm not the type to eat breakfast. And I'm not the type. Sometimes I have like lunch, soup or something like that. But I've generally been someone who prefers like a bigger evening meal, and then maybe it's like a snack later on. I'm like a late eater, and I sleep quite late as well. Like I'm like a night owl, and I sleep late. So I thought, well, actually, I only eat pretty late. So what could be causing this, continual cycle of the sugar burning? And it turns out it's one of my favorite things. Tea. A tea fan. I've gotten into the habit of drinking tea with sugar and oat milk, which I love. I adore my tea. I really do. And it turns out, obviously, adding sugar to the tea and oat milk was kind of adding to my sugar intake more than I kind of realized, because I was drinking that pretty much as soon as I got up. I was having like a morning tea. And I did a bit of calculations and experiments as always, and I figured out actually if I cut out my morning tea and just have herbal tea, because I do love herbal tea. I love like mint teas, and I grow herbs and stuff. So I was like, I could have like a beneficial herbal tea on a morning, get out of this habit of having the sugar fix early on. And actually, it served me really well. I really quite enjoy it now. So generally, most days I have a herbal tea on a morning, and I have that until about 2 is my little routine, and then I have a little bit of a window of eating now between 2 and 10, and I try and avoid eating between 10 p.m. and 2 p.m. the next day, and I just drink herbal tea. If I need something, I just drink herbal tea. Now, I'm not perfect. I don't do this all the time. If my body's hungry, I'll eat. And I generally follow the principle like 80% rule, five days out of 7. If I'm following this pattern, I'm happy. I don't ever punish myself and make myself stick to a strict routine. Isn't on my style. But again, it generally works out fine. Most days, that's absolutely fine for me. That's become my new normal. That's become my new routine. It's benefited me a lot. I don't really miss the morning tea. Now I've gotten over the initial, shock of losing my beloved tea in the morning. Some mornings if I really wanted, I'll have it. So I found the fasting really beneficial. It was a really great way, along with the other stuff that I was doing that I explained in the last video. I've just kind of regulated my blood sugars and making sure that my body was using up all the energy I'd taken in from the day before and starting afresh every day. I found that really helpful, and it's really significantly reduced any patterns of flare-ups and things like that. So the other thing I did with this next phase, commit to the process, getting moving, was walking again. So I have to walk anyway. I have a dog, but I had to significantly reduce my walking with the flare up. It was incredibly painful. I used to love walking in the woods I'm quite a fast walker. So I get quite a lot of exercise with the walking. And when I had to cut that back down, there was a lot of fear had built up as well. I developed some foot problems and stuff with the flare up, and there was a lot of pain. There was times when if I'd walked too far, I would literally feel like I'd gotten stuck. And I'm walking in the woods and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to walk up a big hill to get home, and I literally don't have the energy, or I was in a lot of pain with my feet, and didn't think I was going to make it through the pain. All this stuff that had kind of got entangled in this flare up. I had to start moving it. I had to start shifting through it. So one of them was just building up my walking again, committing to the process of just starting to walk a little bit longer, push my limits a little bit. And all of this stuff in this phase, I didn't do anything drastic. So the first phase where I was experimenting, they were quite drastic experiments and changes just to see how my body was affected. But this stage is much more gentle. It's about pushing, finding that edge, finding where the comfort edge is, and seeing if I can push it and expand it a little bit more. It's committing to that process of growth and change. So the walking was really important to me. And I also did some other experiments because I used to do stretching and different things, trying to do that again. And it turned out I couldn't. It was not a good idea for me to do I tried to do things like yoga and Pilates. It was too much. It was causing a flare up afterwards. So I had to not do that and just rely on my walking and start to build up my strength and agility that way. I also had a bit of physical work to do, and the weather had changed that time of year. It wasn't as damp, which probably was having a bit of an impact anyway on my joints and that sort of thing. So I was making sure that I was doing a bit more different physical movement, testing the limit to make sure I was getting plenty of rest in between. Rest is really important in a recovery journey, whatever you're doing. So that's kind of what experiment with the limits is. Find out where your limit is, see how much you can do, rest, let yourself recover in it. I also take certain supplements, which I'm going to do as a little bonus video. If you go and watch this at the Love School course, I'm going to do a video about the different supplements that I take as and when I need them to support recovery. So if you haven't yet, go and sign up over there and you'll get that little bonus. Otherwise, paying attention. Like I say, a lot of this has been about diet because it's to do with the body. As I said in the very first video, I noticed that the fibromyalgia was psychosomatic. So that means there's a connection between the mind and the body. One of the things we talk about a lot at Love School is looking at the shadow work. And as I've touched on before, I had built up a lot of fears around moving and things. This idea of feeling trapped in my body and scared to push it because of the pain and all that sort of stuff. The next phase of this expansion, movement, growth into recovery was looking at shadow work. So it was looking at what was going on in my mind, all the built up fears, all the meaning I'd given to the flare up, all of the entangled thoughts, ideas. I needed to get rid of that. So I started a process of self-inquiry, I do a lot of journaling anyway, just really reflecting on that, paying attention to what was going on in the thought processes and things as I was moving through, pushing my limits a little bit, expanding my comfort zone, expanding that boundary and learning what was working for me. Building up a relationship with myself again, building up my self-trust, trusting that I wouldn't push myself too far, that I was paying attention, I wasn't being too rough with myself. And also releasing them limits that were literally keeping us trapped and stuck, that I couldn't do it anymore, or my body was failing. All these thoughts and ideas and things that were going on that weren't serving my new recovery mindset again. When I was moving through the shadow work, it kind of leaves a gap. I find you could, some people do shadow work and then leave it, that you don't have to do any affirmative practices, but I like to do affirmative practices at the same time. So the shadow work is like releasing those fears, releasing those doubts, and then I added in an affirmation practice to start building up a connection of love with my body again, of trust with my body again, just affirming I can do this. I'm on a path to health and well-being. There are all sorts of ways that we can affirm for our health and well-being, whether that be through visualization exercises, verbal affirmations, written affirmations, whatever sort of practice it is. But basically, it's like shifting out of that fear mindset and into a positive growth mindset, and affirming that we can do that. So again, something that will be a lovely additional content if you go over to Love School is the Affirmations for Healing course will be added as a little bonus if you go and watch this and join over at Love School. And that'll teach a great way of doing affirmations for a healing process. It was really important for me through this process of change not to try and push anything, not to try and force anything. And like I say, not to stay too stagnant either. So it was like continually just growing and building what worked for us, what I could do. So for example, with the fasting, I started like with 12 hours. That was fine. 14 hours, that was fine. 16 hours most days, fine. So that became my little routine. I probably wouldn't push it past that because, you know, that's just my pattern. I have to drink my tea after 2 p.m. Got to have some pleasures in life, surely. And the other thing, it's just being aware of that balance between nurturing, not denying our fears or our wounds or the pain that we're in. It's not like pushing through that and struggling, pretending like it's not there, because it most definitely was there. But also not giving into that and not choosing to be trapped by that. So this is where all of this stuff comes together, with the body, physically moving the body, and the mind, finding out what was causing the restriction, doing the shadow work so we can release the mind, and then expanding the mind with the affirmations practice to encourage this process of change, to encourage and affirm that that's all possible. This is really important in this phase. This kind of lasted quite a while. So this phase of just slowly building up and experimenting was probably about 6 months, maybe. Like I say, it's kind of a slower process. It's kind of more of a plateau, if you like, where you just kind of get used to the habits and the lifestyle. So it feels normal. It feels usual. I wasn't caught in that flare-up cycle anymore. I knew it was working. It was affirming it was working. So I could trust the process. Stick around, there's still another video to come, and I'm going to share in the next video. Make sure that you like and subscribe and put the notification bell on so you get notifications, or get yourself over to Love School and you can access it all at once. I'll put all the links below for you to access the course if you want to watch it all at once. Otherwise, it's going to be released next week, the final part of the series over here on YouTube. And I'm going to be looking at the final phase of the recovery process.